He's been the king of the screen for decades. But what happened on that stage, no one saw coming, not even him. It started off like any other late-night appearance glitz. Laughter, polite applause, but something in Denzel Washington's eyes suggested this wasn't going to be an ordinary interview. Stephen Colbert welcomed him with his signature smile and charisma, but as Denzel took his seat, the mood felt just a little off. He smiled back, of course, nodded to the audience, even cracked a quick joke. But viewers who watched closely could see it beneath the charm was tension. Not the kind you get from nerves or stage fright, but the quiet, simmering kind that comes when a man walks into a room knowing exactly what's about to unfold, and dreading it anyway. Denzel's reputation precedes him. He's known for speaking the truth, for carrying himself with dignity, for choosing his words carefully. But that night, the words would choose him, and Colbert, perhaps unknowingly, would be the one to strike the match that lit the fire. It began innocently enough. Stephen threw out the usual compliments, asked about upcoming projects, teased about Denzel's intense performances. But then, the host shifted gears. He brought up an old controversy, one that had long since been buried, so Denzel had hoped. With a grin that barely masked the loaded intent, Colbert said, "You've always played strong, complex men. But do you ever wonder if your strong opinions have made you difficult to work with?" The studio laughed, not realizing the gravity of what had just been said. Denzel blinked slowly. The smile stayed on his face, but it stiffened. And that silence, those 3 seconds of pause, felt like 1,000 volts of tension crawling up everyone's spine. "You trying to be funny?" Denzel finally asked, his voice calm, steady, but lined with steel. Colbert laughed, trying to play it off, but the shift was irreversible. This wasn't a playful jab anymore. This was personal. What followed was a masterclass in quiet confrontation. Denzel didn't raise his voice. He didn't curse or storm. Instead, he leaned in. "Let me tell you something about strong opinions," he said, looking not at Colbert, but directly into the camera, into the hearts of the people watching. Having a voice, standing for something that's not being difficult, that's being responsible, that's being a man. The audience was no longer laughing. Colbert tried to steer things back, mentioning Denzel's activism, his politics, his public image, but that only fanned the flames. "You brought me here to promote my work," Denzel said, "but it feels like you brought me here to poke the bear. You want fireworks? Careful, Stephen. You just might get burned." It was no longer an interview, it was a reckoning. And the audience, caught in the middle, could only watch in stunned silence. Stephen Colbert, for his part, attempted damage, control. He softened his tone, offered up a compliment, maybe even an apology cloaked in a joke. But Denzel wasn't biting. "You know," he said slowly, "I've sat on 100 of these couches, smiled for the cameras, played the game, but I've never liked the game, because it's not about truth, it's about performance. And if I wanted to perform tonight, I'd be on stage doing Shakespeare, sitting here being dissected like I'm a headline." The studio was frozen. The crew didn't know whether to cut to commercial. Colbert looked visibly uncomfortable, shifting in his seat, his usual confidence replaced by uncertainty. He had faced tough interviews before, but not like this, not with someone who refused to be boxed in. Denzel's quiet resistance had turned the stage upside down. The actor wasn't playing a role anymore. He was delivering a message, and it was hitting harder than any scripted line ever could. And then, just when it seemed things might calm down, Colbert pressed one more button. He mentioned the generational divide in Hollywood, hinted that Denzel's way of thinking was a little old school. That was the final straw. Denzel stood up slowly, deliberately, not with anger, but with dignity. "You want to talk about old school?" he said. "Old school is respect, integrity, knowing when to stop pretending. You invited me here to talk, not to be insulted. I'm done." And with that, he walked off the set. No tantrum, no outburst, just a man choosing to leave a conversation that no longer deserved him. The audience gasped. Some clapped out of habit. Others simply sat in stunned silence. Colbert looked off camera, clearly rattled, whispering something to his producers as the feed cut to commercial. But the damage was done. In the age of viral moments, this one was immortalized in seconds, and not for laughs, but for truth. Social media erupted within minutes. #DenzelVsColbert began trending worldwide. Clips of the tense exchange flooded every platform. Some defended Colbert, claiming it was all part of the show, but more sided with Denzel, praising his poise, his refusal to play along with a script he didn't write. Fans admired how he didn't shout, didn't attack, but instead drew a line with class. "That's how a real man exits," one comment. Read Denzel didn't walk out, he rose above. Within hours, think pieces surfaced. Analysts debated whether late-night comedy had crossed a line, whether interviews had become ambushes in disguise. Others pointed out how black celebrities are often held to impossible standards, expected to smile through every jab, to perform politeness even when provoked. Denzel's walk-off became more than a headline. It became a cultural moment, a reminder that dignity sometimes means knowing when to say enough. In the days that followed, both camps issued statements. Colbert's team called it a misunderstanding, praising Denzel's legacy while insisting no disrespect was intended. But Denzel's silence spoke volumes. He didn't respond, didn't tweet, didn't go on another talk show to clear the air. That silence became its own massager, refusal to feed the machine. Friends and co-stars came to his defense. Viola Davis posted a single word: respect. Chadwick Boseman's old interview clip resurfaced, where he had praised Denzel as the man who made his career possible. In every corner of the entertainment world, one thing became clear: Denzel's stand had struck a chord. Not because he stormed off, but because he refused to stoop, because he didn't play their game, because he chose himself, even in front of millions. That kind of power doesn't need a microphone. It doesn't even need applause. It just is. So what really happened that night? Was it ego? Was it miscommunication? Or was it something deeper? Something that's been brewing in Hollywood for years. A tension between performance and personhood, between entertainment and exploitation. Denzel Washington has built a career by refusing to be a stereotype, by choosing roles that matter, words that matter. So when he found himself in a space where he felt mocked, minimized, misunderstood, he did what most people only dream of doing. He stood up, not in protest, not in anger, but in truth. That moment, raw and unscripted, reminded millions of the power of presence, of walking away not as a retreat, but as a refusal to shrink. In the world of late-night fluff, Denzel brought gravity, and for once, the laugh track went silent, and stayed that way. And maybe that's what this moment will come to represent. Not just a clash between a Hollywood legend and a late-night host, but something bigger. A turning point. A reminder that dignity can't be scripted, that truth doesn't need applause, and that sometimes walking away says more than 1,000 clever soundbites. Denzel Washington didn't leave the stage to create drama. He left to preserve something far more valuable: his voice, his respect, and his peace. And in a world that demands constant performance, that kind of silence speaks the loudest.